And okay, next up, I'm pretty excited for this.
I'm very excited.
Bradley has gotten a little bit further in a little manga called One Piece,
Ooh,
and I'm dying to hear
Smallest
thoughts.
manga this side of the Mississippi.
probably read close to 30 chapters yesterday, which is pretty good.
Damn, chunky.
Chunky, chunky boys. Yeah. So I read the rest of the Baratie. Yeah, I don't think I've ever said that out loud. Is that how it's said? Baratie?
It might be Baratie,
Baratie.
possibly, but could
Yeah.
go with
So
either.
I read what I guess is probably the majority of that arc, um, which is like the entire battle with Don Krieg's kind of Armada and Pearl and all that. And then I started Arlong Park, which I've heard is pretty much the shit, and so far it is. Uh,
Oh,
Up to the point when Luffy marches into Arlong Park itself, and he's like, "Which one of you motherfucking fuckos is Arlong?"
Oh
okay.
man.
Hold on, let's back it up before
Yeah,
we blow our load on the walk to Arlong
yeah.
Park.
I took
Um,
notes, and I figured I could go through them chronologically in the
yeah,
order I took them because I take the notes as I read
same.
on the stuff I like.
Let's do Baratie first.
Yes.
Yes. Um, so I think at the last by the last time I had talked about it on the podcast, I had kind of gotten a little ways through um, the Baratie arc. It was I got up to the point where Don Krieg and his boys actually show up, and they're like, "We're gonna destroy you people." Um, so we got to see, is it Mihawk or Myhawk?
Mihawk.
Mihawk.
Mihawk,
My cock.
who is awesome, by the way. Like, whenever I first saw him, I was gushing to Joe and Willer about. I was like, "I thought this guy's just the coolest. I love the way he looks." Um,
So funny thing about that, I was when I read One Piece around the first time, and I remember this when I watched the shitty Four Kids anime too, or I had the same feeling, but like I was talking to Willer and I was like, if I was going week to week and this Mihawk guy showed up and just kind of kicked ass and like went away, I kind of actually would have been kind of upset because I'm like, why the fuck is this? This just happened? Because I would have had no concept of like how big One Piece would get,
yeah,
essentially.
because at first glance, it's like, okay, this guy who has nothing to do with these people shows up for a brief moment to kick ass and then he leaves.
Yeah.
Well,
Um.
But in the
But
long run,
yeah, but
they
then
are.
but since talking to Willer, knowing about it, it's like, okay, this guy's probably important. He's going to show up later in the series, and he does. He does play a very important role. Um, so I was like, I was more okay with it, but I don't know of how okay I would have been if it was I was going week to week reading this
so
saga.
my
Yeah,
thoughts on that is I think Mihawk is just an absolute win because here you have in your 40th chapter a final boss character just showing up. Why is he here? To kill time. He chased these pirates down to bully them in a coffin boat. Regardless of anything, I think just the setup of Mihawk showing up is the turning point of One Piece. Um, it's one of it's One Piece has quite a few pivot points, but I'd say like that's the first one where it's like ooh, and then he leaves, right? So like you're leaving this dangling thread for the future, and boy does it dangle.
yeah.
But Bradley, why don't you gush to the audience about Mihawk?
Yeah. I mean, I just One Piece character designs can be kind of hit or miss. They're very out there. I like that Oda is very varied with his character designs. Like even just like little unnamed background guys, you can tell them apart because
Yes.
they're so varied. And I just love Mihawk's design, and I love his chemistry with Zoro. Because at first he's like, okay, fucking little wannabe swordsman guy, but by the end of their encounter, he has a pretty healthy level of respect. I think there's like certain sayings and mannerisms that Zoro pulls out that make Mihawk break his kind of perpetual grimace, and you can tell he kind of acknowledges Zoro as another swordsman.
Mihawk is the strongest swordsman in the world.
Yeah, which is
So
it's a big deal.
I think
that
he's like up there with I think with the exception of like 2 or 3 other people, like it's one of the strongest people in the entire world.
Mihawk is top 10. He's got to
Yeah.
be. Just by shonen rules, he's got to be the strongest Ichibukai or Seven Warlord because
Yeah.
he's someone's final opponent, and that someone is the second strongest in the crew. So just by shonen rule, like,
Yeah.
Mihawk's got to be insane.
Like,
And he barely tries in the times we do see him, and he's already insane.
and I think there's lore later, Bradley, that I think will make you go, oh,
Yeah.
about Mihawk. That I think it's just kind of said like randomly in like a one-off speech bubble about him and another character that you know, and it kind of really shows you the power level of these people.
So for him to acknowledge Zoro, first of all, he fights him pretty much completely dominates him with a 1-inch knife, which is just such a good stunt move, like it's such a good flaunt.
And that gets called back to in the current arc, Bradley. Him with the 1-inch knife.
Yes, yeah. Man, ooh.
Ready to see that.
You'll get there in like a year or two.
What chapter are you on? You got like what 900 more chapters?
Yeah, something like that. I'm
So-
maybe 8% of the way through.
So yeah, it's his chemistry with Zoro is really good. By the end of the fight, he acknowledges him, and when Zoro presents his chest to him, Mihawk just gives him a smile. It's like magnificent that he fucking cuts that motherfucker down.
Yeah, and I don't know, just like the very short time he was there, whenever he left, I was like, man, I can't wait to see them fight again in 900 chapters. Maybe.
Kick. Well, you'll see more Mihawk, that's for sure. I can promise you that.
So moving on from there, right after that, we pretty much get into the meat of this arc, which is the entire battle confrontation with Krieg, and Pearl's there too. You know, he's a thing.
Krieg is sieging the Baratie. He wants to add the ship to his armada.
Well, like his whole armada is destroyed, so he literally just needs a ship to have to
True.
resurrect.
Yeah. And it's kind of split. I'd probably say the Pearl fight, while there's a few people fighting him, I'd say that's more of Sanji versus Pearl than anything else. And then Luffy's going after Krieg.
Well, I think you're skipping a character. Gin is also there, and he's more important than Pearl.
Yeah, and I had mixed feelings about him. So,
Gin or Pearl?
Gin.
Okay.
So I didn't know if it was Gin or Geen or Jin or I don't know.
Whatever. Jin works.
Yeah. So you know, we kind of get a few flip flops with him. The first time we ever see him, you know, he's starving. And Sanji's like, "Oh, I'm bringing him food," and people are like, "No, he's with Krieg's pirates, and you know, you're not supposed to trust this guy. Like, oh, he's got to be a bad pirate." And then Sanji feeds him, and then he's like, "Oh, you know what? Maybe." You know, just the interaction. You know, maybe he's not so bad. He's very grateful to Sanji, and then he leaves, and then he eventually comes back with Don Krieg, and he's kind of playing up this angle, like, "Oh, I can't believe you came, Krieg. Like, I didn't want you to come." And then later it's revealed that, oh no, he actually is like the most evil dude in this whole crew. And then they fight, and then before he strikes the final blow, it turns out, oh, maybe he's not so bad. You know, he actually does have sympathy, and I felt like I was kind of getting whiplash at any given moment. I was like, okay, is this sympathetic Jin or evil Jin?
Mm-hmm.
So I did like watching him fight. I think he had really cool weapons, and I did like his. I like where he ended up, where he kind of resolved like, no, like I'm still gonna be a pirate. This is still my life. So I like where he ended up. I just felt like we kind of took him all over the place for a minute there.
I think Gin worked for me. I liked him as a character because the way I saw it, he's a ruthless killer bastard, but in his moment of need, Sanji helped him, and he brings Krieg there. And I think originally, if I recall correctly, he brings Krieg there without the idea that Krieg will take over the boat. I think
he goes there saying like, "There's someone there that'll feed us."
will feed us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Krieg clotheslines Sanji and pretty much ends that in a negative way.
Yeah.
But he still has a loyalty to Krieg. He's still a proud Krieg pirate. He's Krieg's like big killer. But he's met someone who has showed him compassion. So throughout the fight, he's really fighting with himself, to the point where at the end he's like, Krieg, I can't kill this man. I'll be your killer, but I won't kill this guy. And even at the end, he leaves with Krieg, and he's like, "This is still my captain, Sanji. You're still a friend of mine. I still love what you did for me. And Krieg's still my captain." He leaves in a very neutral, complex way.
Yeah, because they said that in the past, Geen had been able to like torture someone even while they're screaming or whatever. But what he said he's never encountered is someone who did something selfless for him while he's actively trying to destroy them. And that just really turned his whole world upside down. Which, you know, Oda said that's what One Piece encounters are really about. It's about destroying your opponent's worldview.
Yes. But I could see why you get the whiplash. I did end up liking him though.
Yeah.
Joe, you got any Geen stuff to say
about Geen? No, I just wanted to mention that I think this arc ranks lower for me than any other kind of arc. Like basically, I see the arc in two halves. There's the half where they're talking to Sanji and they're on the ship and then trying to get Sanji to join them, and I really like that part. And then there's the fight that I think just goes on way too long. But
I'm gonna get to that.
We can get to that. We can get to this seems like a final argument.
Yeah, but I just want to say, I love the setting of the fight. The setting of the fight is so fucking cool, especially when you think about Luffy and how he literally can't go in the water or he will die, and like just period flat out, he will sink and he will drown and he will die. But it's just a really cool dynamic like setting, and you have like the chef cooks setting up like a phalanx and a wall to protect the ship, and
the fact that the ship has those gills dedicated for fighting is pretty neat.
And they had there's a little joke where like they can barely get the little ship, they're struggling to get the little like ship to come out, and then it turns, it goes real quickly.
Yeah, that was a good gag.
So, the next and kind of finale of this arc is Luffy's big fight with Krieg, which you know, Luffy's just not intimidated by this guy at all. He's like, oh, I'm the strongest guy in the world, and Luffy's like, yeah, okay, well, I'm gonna be king of the pirates, and you know, they kind of have an argument over like who's really worth being king of the pirates. And Luffy's like, I just answered that, it's me, like obviously. And so the first big hit that Luffy lands on Krieg is one of my favorite moments in the manga so far, because Luffy knocks Krieg out cold with not even like one of his big finisher moves. It's just kind of like a standard gum pistol, and Krieg had like several inches of steel between Luffy's fist and his face, and it knocks him out cold, and that's Luffy's first hit. And the reason I like that,
it's him punching the spike cape, right?
Yeah. The reason I like this a lot is because from like the first few pages I saw Krieg, I always got the vibe that, you know, I'm sure he's much stronger than your average pirate, but I believe that the only reason he got to the position he's in is through just cheap tricks and scumbaggery, which is what almost his entire arsenal is based off of. He constantly lies like, I'm sending out this attack, and he's like, oh, psych, it was actually this attack. Or
Oda makes it clear that he's a deceiving man.
Yeah, even the first time we see him, he's like, oh, please, I'll do anything for food. Like, just his whole character is based around deceit, and the fact that he gets, and like almost all of his fighting, like we see other people fight with like their fists or like maybe a blade, but he fights with like almost Iron Man ass armor. Like he has to have all this technology, and it's like, I'm sure he's strong, but he might not be that strong by himself. So the fact that he got knocked out by not even like a finisher move behind armor, I really like that. And then, you know, a page or two later, he kind of gets back up for one last shot at Luffy, and Luffy's just kind of like, oh, you're up again. And then he kicks him in the head again. It's not even like a gum gavel or anything. It's just like a normal kick.
Mhm.
And so I really liked that a lot the first time. But then throughout the fight, Don Krieg gets up, like he's defeated and gets back up like another 2 or 3 times, and each time he's stronger than the time before that. And I don't know if we needed. I don't know if we really needed all that. That's when the fight started feeling like it went too long. Like at the time Luffy landed those first 2 hits, I felt like that was a pretty good length fight. But then we go on a few more chapters.
Yeah.
I think my problem with the length of Baratie is it's the Pearl fight for me personally, where
Yeah, we needed that to be as long as it was.
it was a good gag fight where like Luffy crashes into his head and he knocks his face into the iron, and then it just goes on for quite. He beats up Sanji for a long time.
Yeah,
He had like 3 different like modes and like
the fight for this henchman was like as long as the Krieg fight, and
Yeah.
I don't know.
With Krieg, one thing I don't like is the poison needle part. Like Luffy just tanks that a very strong attack pretty easily very early in the series. It's just, I give a lot of leeway to Luffy's durability, but that one was like, come on, it's a poison dart, whatever. Well, it's not poison. I'm getting it mixed with 4Kids. It's just darts.
Yeah,
In 4Kids, they're poison suction
poison.
cups.
yeah.
playing 4Kids is not the most canon version of One Piece.
No way.
With the Krieg fight, though, I really like the finisher where he has to do like, I think it was like a series of 2 bazookas to crack his
I think
armor,
it's like 3 bazookas. I think he has to have one to like set him up.
and
and then-
he's running up the mast as he's doing it too.
Yeah. It's a really cool finisher. It's just it needed to happen about 10 chapters previous.
I wouldn't say 10.
Oh, well, I don't remember how long the arc is, but it needed to happen sooner.
I'll give it like 3 chapters shorter, and
Yeah.
cut the Pearl fight too.
And what'd you think, Bradley, about Nami just up and stealing the ship and heading off to Arlong Park?
So at the moment I initially read it, it didn't surprise me at all that she would do that, but I didn't buy for a second that this is Nami just like. I didn't buy that she's doing it just because she's a total asshole. I always figured there was some kind of like personal agenda behind it, and I was glad to see that seems to be the case.
That might be a meta level though, where she's a crew member and like
Yeah,
nothing you've ever seen or we've said has ever implied that she's not there later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because she's like one
I've
of
seen
the
pictures of big titty Nami from years ago.
What did you think of Sanji's flashback?
Oh yes, I forgot. That's one of my favorite moments of the entire arc.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I like this a lot. I think he has a cool origin, and I think it's kind of sweet that he has this past with Chef Zeph. I imagine he's been on the restaurant longer than anybody else who's there.
Mhm.
Kind of have this love-hate relationship, but I also really liked how Oda, like, he kind of brings back a panel from the first chapter with Luffy where Shanks lost his arm and kind of shows that parallel
Mhm.
between Sanji and Luffy's origins, where this person that's kind of in a position they would look up to sacrifices a body part for them.
Sacrifices a piece of them.
Yeah, you see, there's so many. Sanji and Luffy are very alike, both because of that origin, and they both have a particular dream that virtually everybody else is like, no, that's impossible, you're insane. But they're just like, no, like it's going to happen. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be king of the pirates. I'm going to find the all blue.
There's
And
that,
when they talk
scene.
about these dreams, they just have this
Yes.
like childlike enthusiasm for it, and they're very alike.
There's that scene early in the arc where like they're meeting for the first time and they're talking about their dreams, and you can't see what they're saying because you're seeing it from Zeph's point of view. He's just watching them, but you
Yeah.
can see their arms and their faces like with so much enthusiasm of sharing a dream with someone else that
And someone's
has
like
a
willing to listen and like
Yeah.
actually be involved in that like excitement, like, oh my god, this person gets it what it's like to like have a dream like this.
and
Yeah.
Sanji's like a gruff guy, but that immediately sells their friendship, I think.
Oh
God,
yeah.
I love Sanji. Uh, he's so cool.
Very
And the other thing about that flashback that I really really like, it shows you that like One Piece is like very. I think at one point when we had that chart that like that's like settings. I think one of them was Grimbright. And I'm like, One Piece is 100% Grimbright because there are some very dark moments of One Piece, but it feels very
Yes.
whimsical at the same time.
Oh man, Nami's flashback. Oh my god.
Oh, we'll
Yeah.
get there. Oh, I'm so glad you got there already.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Just back to Sanji real quick.
Yeah.
The fact that Zeph ate his leg, Jesus, man.
Yeah. That's like,
Oh,
and the great thing is like you don't have to like see him do that. You can just witness the results. Like there's another arc way down the line. That's probably the most metal like origin story ever. And like you don't even like it doesn't even like show you what that person does, but you immediately understand like what they did.
it
And you're
doesn't
like,
even
oh,
it doesn't even tell you because it's
Yeah.
it's too dark for One Piece
yeah,
to the point where like it happens and it 100% happens, but it's not acknowledged because like kids are reading. We can't like say
Yeah.
what just happened.
and you're just and it really solidifies that this person like has gone through horrible things and doesn't realize it. But like the same thing with them with Zeph is like the horrible things happen in this world as much as fun and laughter there is in it. It's like there are dark moments that happen. And it's great. I love it.
do you
10 out
have
of 10 backstories.
Do you have any other points? Because I definitely want to talk about the goodbye scene. But if there's anything else, we'll probably close Baratie with that goodbye scene.
It was very touching, and I think I've said before with I think maybe Sanji's goodbye, that or when Sanji's leaving his island, that I like that Oda has this confidence to know
Oh, you mean
what
Usopp?
emotion that his readers are feeling,
Mhm.
because everybody's super sad in the story, and even the characters the next chapter, once Arlong Park has started to like, oh my god, that was so sad to watch, and I was like, I know it was so sad.
The idea that like he gets all the chefs to say his delicious soup is shitty because he knows he needs to rile Sanji up.
Yeah,
And Sanji gets riled up and he's leaving and he's storming out and he reflects on it a little bit and he turns to Zeph and he gets on his knee, this really gruff guy who's only been like he's a friendly but tough guy, and he gets on his knees and he just thanks Zeph for everything that he did with tears in his eyes.
And Sanji's like the epitome of cool on the ship because like he wears like an all black suit, he smokes, he has like one eye covered by his hair. He's just kind of like the epitome of cool, and for him to like break that kind of persona to like just thank this man is a really touching moment. I feel.
His relationship with Zeph is really good and should not be forgotten.
Never
Never forget.
very important.
We good to move on to Arlong Park?
Yes.
yes.
It's like
All right.
we. Oh my god.
So the very first chapter that we're officially in the Arlong Park arc, once they left the restaurant, they start sailing that way. Most of this first chapter is just kind of in the water on the way there, and I love how well Arlong is built up as an antagonist just in these conversations, because we've seen how ridiculously powerful Mihawk is, and so we get the reveal that there's 6 more people, the
Six
whatever
more Warlords of the Sea.
yeah. We get the reveal that there's 6 more people who are considered on a level somewhere close to him. And even Luffy, who's usually completely unfazed by everybody, even Don Krieg, he just didn't give a shit about him. Like, even Luffy is like, holy shit, there's 6 more people as strong as that guy. Like, he's freaking out about it. Which, coming from Luffy, is kind of crazy. And then we learn that the guy we're sailing to, Arlong, is a fishman who at one point was considered an equal to Jinbei, one of the 7. So
Yes.
I'm like, holy shit, this guy's gonna be insane.
And it's important to say that this was at one point in the past they were equals, but One Piece power levels means that doesn't necessarily mean that he's as strong as Jinbei today.
Right. But just even if it was at some point in the past, you have to be like, oh my god.
Also, I can't believe Jinbei was mentioned so early in this series.
He was the longest running mystery in One Piece.
Yeah, you're right. I thought originally what I thought was what I originally thought that was is another warlord that you see him and he just has a few lines and you're like they're building him up to something and it's Mr. Flamingo. But yeah, you're right. Jinbei is the one that's like been hidden the longest essentially.
Another thing is Mihawk and that conversation on the ship is where One Piece's strongest point starts being born, which is the world building and the setting of One Piece. Bradley doesn't realize it now, but he's getting to a point where a lot of stuff is going to start being introduced into the world, and a lot of seeds are going to be planted for later. And what's beautiful about One Piece is that all these seeds bloom in really fun ways and really well thought out ways.
I'm excited for it because that's one reason I decided to read it, is because the easiest way to get me to read something is if it has something in common with Worm. And for example, like there's a character who appears in one chapter near the beginning and then they end up being like absolutely pivotal near the end. And when it happens, it's not even like out of nowhere. You can see how they got there. So when I hear you guys talk about this kind of stuff, I'm like, oh, well, I like that kind of thing. I want to see where these characters go.
It's to the point where every chapter, me and Joe can have like solid, meaty discussions about the implications and what all happened and how stuff feeds into stuff. And
but Arlong Park, because Arlong Park is like went up there in my top arcs and really like was one of the points where it's like, fuck, this is actually really good and really thought out. And there's like one precise moment I can pinpoint to.
Don't hype up the boy too much. Let's keep moving.
He's already been
I don't want to get
Bradley, go. Keep going.
Okay, so then after they are kind of sailing to the island, we kind of cut away and we see Nami show up to Arlong Park, and we kind of get the reveal that she was technically a member of Arlong's crew the whole time. And so at first you're like, oh, I guess she was a fucking evil pirate. And I feel like a lot of other writers would be tempted to kind of string the reader along for the majority of the arc, pretending that she's actually been super evil this whole time. But seriously, like two panels after the reveal that she's been an evil Arlong pirate the whole time, Arlong's like, yeah, she's cold-blooded. All we had to, like, even though I killed her parents, she's cool. And she gets this look on her face, and the direction she's facing, it's a look that only us and Zoro would see. None of Arlong's crew would see it. But that particular panel, 2 pages after the reveal that she's part of his crew, is all I needed to know that she's here because she has to be, not because she's one of them. She's not the kind of evil that these guys are. And just to drive it in even further, about another page after that is when Zoro thrusts himself into the water and she saves him. So, Oda didn't have to do these 2 beats. He didn't have to, but I'm glad he did. A lot of people might have wanted to play up the reveal for another 10 or 20 chapters, making you think Nami's super evil, but we don't need that. Like,
it wasn't the point.
Yeah, the Nami we saw that's been friends with Luffy and Zoro is a real person. She just has a higher priority right now, and she doesn't really know where to. She doesn't really know where to sort her priorities.
Let's not forget that this is the same person who used her own hands to put out the flame of the cannon that was going to shoot at Luffy. Yeah. And she also put her life at risk to get Zoro his swords. And all the while, she's thinking about treasure, but she's also doing these acts of kindness that really she has to sacrifice part of herself and put herself in risk to help the crew. Remind me again, why did Zoro jump in the water? It was to prove Nami wasn't...
Even he did it after he saw her face when Arlong was talking about her. And he was in the same boat as me. He's like, I don't buy this for a second. I do not believe that she's like a cold-blooded evil witch lady.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really glad that his hunch was correct, because otherwise he would have died.
He's a betting man.
Yeah, so we kind of go along, just kind of moving people around like our little chess pieces, putting them where they need to be to set up for the arc. There was one little moment where, in the grand scheme of things, it's not super important, but it's just one reason I really like Luffy a lot. I feel like Luffy's consistently unpredictable in the best possible way, just as far as how he tackles situations. So, like, when the giant cow fish monster appears during their little meal, Momu or whatever,
Ooh.
I could easily see Luffy doing one of two possible things. I could see him just totally brushing off the huge-ass monster because he's eating and he doesn't have time for that. But I could also see him doing what he actually does and just immediately going, man, fuck this monster for no reason. In the face.
They're both in character.
Yeah,
you don't know which one.
Is, and like another thing with his kind of unpredictability, a chapter or two later when he learns of Nami's quote betrayal, whatever, I could on one hand expect him to, argue with her or try to win her over or something, but what he actually does is he's just like, man, fuck this, I'm taking a nap. And
yeah,
both
I remember that.
Seem both so unlike, but also very much like Luffy.
That feeds into one of my favorite parts. But yeah, go on.
He also does that while Nojiko is telling Nami's backstory. So he's like, no matter what you say right now, Nami, I know Nami is my friend. I don't even need to be here for this. I'm gonna go take a walk.
And it's kind of this whole arc for Luffy, like in terms of the whole arc for Luffy, for us the readers, is to realize that Luffy is really in tune to the personalities of other people, and he knows what everyone's like. He knows how that person truly is, how that person truly feels.
Luffy might be an idiot, but he has really high emotional intelligence, and that really shines later on as well.
Yeah, but go on.
So I don't know. I just I felt like I needed that moment to spotlight why Luffy is so entertaining. There's even the moment where, like, the village leader is meeting up with the Navy guy, and they're talking about this stuff, and I don't know, Luffy looks at them and he's like, oh my god, why does that guy have a pinwheel on it? And it's like, Luffy, that's not what's important here. It's like they're talking about way more important stuff.
I like Nojiko's interactions with Usopp. Just wanted to bring that up. Nojiko's really cool. Usopp was suspicious, but then he's understanding, and he comes around, and he understands Nami's feelings as well. He also takes a shot at Arlong, and then just freaking books it, which is pretty fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I thought it was interesting because when Nojiko, was it Nojiko or Nojiko? Nojiko. Whenever she appeared, I was like, man, she looks a lot like Nami. And surprise, surprise. Though I guess
better get used to it.
Nami,
yeah, better.
Which I guess it fits. So yeah. All right, let's see what else I got here. Okay. So one thing I really liked, and this came after the kind of reveal that Nami had stabbed her own hand to prevent Usopp from being killed.
Such a good scene.
Which I was like, I kind of had that moment before where I was like, oh, Nami's still good. She's good. Like, she's not gonna betray our dudes. And then the moment happens where she stabs Usopp, and you don't know that she didn't really kill him yet. I was like, holy shit! It's like on one level, it totally looks like she just killed Usopp, but I can't believe she would actually do this.
This is good in two ways, because Oda is kind of tricking you to, like, she's backed into a corner. Maybe she did actually stab Usopp now.
Yeah. The thing is, like, even if she did kill him, I don't buy that she would want to do it, but maybe she was in a position where she just actually had to do it.
And it adds a new layer when you find out. It's like, geez, Nami, because the Straw Hats are so invasive and so loud and they get into all sorts of trouble, Nami's cover is going to be blown. Like, you also get this level of tension on the Nami side of the storyline.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's just it was really impressive, and I think one thing that really made me consider whether she might the one thing that made me consider for even a second that maybe she actually is like evil or something is when she actually stabs him. Oda draws her eyes very differently than he normally does. They're just like a very like angry but also void
They
look.
look almost bloodthirsty or
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
and I'm just like, holy shit! And it's very subtle things like that that can really change how you perceive a panel. So yeah, so we get that reveal that she stabbed her hand to prevent Usopp from being killed. And me being me, I of course had to go back through the last few chapters to make sure everything was visually consistent. And man,
Jesus.
Gee, what
Oda
the
is great because you notice if you go back and look from the stabbing scene, after she initially stabs him, she has her hands down at her side, and the hand that actually did the stabbing has very little blood, and the one that didn't stab him is covered in blood, and no one would really notice that unless you were
Mhm.
me going back to look for it, I guess. Um, and you can even see in her position the way she's stabbing him, you could see how she could be stabbing her own hand. And then I was like, okay, let's look through these other chapters. And then from then on, up until the reveal that she didn't actually kill Usopp, in every single panel she's in, her hand, that hand that she had stabbed, is either off screen, or it's behind her back, or later on, after she's had a chance to get away from things, it's in a glove. Like she has that hand gloved, but
Mhm.
even then, that gloved hand is like she's not using it, and it's like limp wristed, like she's like it hurts. And I was like, man, I really appreciate, like, you wouldn't notice this going through the first time, but then once you know the reveal and you go back, you're like, holy shit, it was all there in plain sight.
One Piece is confirmed to be Bradley proof because
It is Bradley Cooper.
for
this,
most things. For most things.
You know
yeah,
me,
you know.
like, you know, if this were JoJo's, they would have just shown her hand being okay, and then they would have a flashback where you see her stabbing her hand, and
Yeah,
I don't know.
they're two sides of a same coin.
So I was very pleased to see that this was Bradley proof. It was very visually consistent. I liked it
For
a lot.
now. All right, next point.
Okay. I think I have one more thing before we get caught up to where I am.
Hold on, before you go on, Bradley, I'm surprised you didn't talk about how Zoro just walks into Arlong Park, literally beats everybody, and just chills out
And
until
tricks Hachan into being his ride.
yeah.
That was really fun. As far as him like beating the fishmen, I was always pretty. It didn't surprise me that Zoro could beat them. Like we see them turn this village upside down, but I don't know what it is about Zoro. I feel confident enough in his abilities that it's not crazy that he beat these little fishmen. But if he fought Arlong himself, I'm just like, oh my god, I don't know if that's gonna happen.
Guess you'll find out.
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out. And then, so the last thing before we kind of bring the whole crew together and go to Arlong Park is we get the Navy coming to find Nami's treasure, and then we get her flashback arc, which, oh my god. Like,
Jesus.
so first of all, before Arlong Park, I think Luffy was probably my favorite character, maybe Sanji next in line. Right now, Nami's my favorite character. Like, holy
She's so
shit.
good.
This whole arc is just, it was breaking my heart in the best way. Like the moment where just like as soon as I heard that, oh, the price for 2 kids is the same as 1 adult, I was like, oh no. And then their mom only had 100,000. I was like, no. Like, you just know what's gonna happen.
And if I recall correctly, you get that amazing scene. First of all, there's just so much good stuff in that flashback, like Genzo and how he was just like, Bellamere, you're a shitty mom, and like, but I still will help you out with your kids. Like Genzo has a really nice relationship with the children, and
really does, because like he'll bust them for stealing or fighting, but he clearly really cares about them. He doesn't view them as pests.
You have that one where Nami's like, she tries to sexually seduce Genzo, and he's like, "Where the hell did you learn that?"
Yeah, he's like, don't pick up her habits.
And then
And
you
then,
have
like-
like Nami calling Bellamere a bad mom because she can't provide like the monetary value that Nami wants, which comes back really crushingly
That
later.
made me so sad because you know that Bellamere, like, she tries her hardest, and to hear, her kids say that is probably the worst, the worst way you could hurt her.
I also love how mature Nojiko is throughout the flashbacks. Like she made me like her character even more.
Yeah.
So on to the climax scene of the
before that, I think do they show how Nojiko gets her tattoos or why
I don't
she
know
does?
if they did.
I think
Okay.
that's later. That's
Okay,
later
that's
in the
that's
arc.
one of my little. That's a small little scene that comes later that I really like, and it's nothing tremendously
Oh
special.
god, it's so good. It is special, Joe.
Yeah.
Don't sell yourself short.
But yeah,
So it leads up to that scene where remind me if I'm like correct me if I'm wrong. But like they have the children have a choice of sticking out of it, and they're like, if we don't go forward, Nojiko can get away with this, and just pay for herself. What causes them to have to run out again and like hug Nojiko? Not
So-
Nojiko, sorry, Bellamere.
Yeah, their original plan was Bellamere can like pay for herself, and then the girls can sail away to a different island.
Yes.
But like she can kind of tell that's the plan that they're cooking up for her kids. And she's like, no, they're not going to survive out there sailing on their own. If I want to save, like, they're just not going to survive. Like in the world where people like Arlong are out there, it's not going to happen. So she's like, I'm going to have to turn myself in. The townspeople care enough that they will take care of my girls. So that's why she's like, no, this money's for my two kids. You take me.
And it's like she rejects the notion that like she rejects the idea of not declaring them as her daughters because they are her daughters.
Yeah, they're like, she doesn't have children, actually. And they look through the town records like, oh, yeah, Arlong, she doesn't have kids. She's like, no, I have kids.
these
But I'm
are
not
my
going
kids.
to pretend I don't.
yeah.
And the fact like she was a badass Navy and she found them as babies, like just makes it all just fleshed out and better.
She grows
Arlong knocks on her
tangerines.
door. She knocks him on his ass and shoves a gun barrel in his mouth.
She's so cool.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
best single mom.
The most
Possibly.
the most tragic part for me was like 2 panels before she actually gets shot. Nami screams, "Wait, you have to see my world map after I draw it."
Mm-hmm.
And I just had to take a break after that because I was like, this was too much for me. It was very sad. Nami flashback was 5 out of 5. Like,
Yeah, it's
100%. Holy crap.
What if I told you that's probably like 4th or 5th best flashback for me? Like that.
Yeah.
One Piece flashbacks are incredible.
I mean, yeah. I have a long way to go. I could believe it.
and,
It's
and,
just
like
amazing.
it's still a 5 out of 5. Like it's so good, man.
Well, God, the next crew members flashback, I'm just like, oof.
Big
It's-
oofs.
it's-
Never. We'll talk about it later.
But I just want to throw this quick tidbit in here. In the 4 Kids version of the show, they don't shoot Bella Marie; they just put her in the dungeon, and the show just conveniently forgets about her.
The fuck?
So there's this Reddit post Joe shared with me recently.
Oh, I can share it with you now because you got past that arc. Hold on, let me see if I can find it.
Yeah.
But you can describe it, or
Joe, you got it.
yeah, I'll try to find it. But essentially, like, I was browsing our One Piece, and this guy's like, "What happened to Bella Marie?" I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" He's like, well, "In the show, they sent her to the dungeon, and they just left without her." And everyone had, like, in the comments had to go like,
Oh no!
"Oh dear, oh sweetheart."
If that was for real, that is the best thread on Reddit.
So let's see. I have one more big point, I think.
Yes, the biggest point. This is
And
the scene Joe has been dying to talk about.
well, I don't know if it's a particular scene. It was kind of I was going to talk about the Navy a little bit.
Okay.
but I don't know if you guys had a scene y'all were thinking about.
Yes.
Yes. There's
Let
one
me take let's take a quick break because I just have a dying urge to take a break.
Okay.
Okay.
We're back. Okay,
Okay.
sorry about that.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the Navy.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I think in our very first podcast, one of the first questions Joe had for me about One Piece was, at this point, what do I think about the Navy?
Yes.
And this was after the whole Axe Hand Morgan deal. About whether, is the Navy strong? Are they competent? Are they not? Are they fundamentally good? Are they fundamentally bad? And so this is probably the most of the Navy that we've seen since then.
Yeah.
So to kind of update, what I had said at the time is I could still see that this is back then. My answer from back then was that I could see the Navy being a fundamentally good force in the world, because if they weren't, I don't think a Boy Scout like Kobe would be so infatuated with joining them. I think the Navy that we saw at the time with Morgan had to be bad because we needed a reason for Luffy and Kobe to work together in that particular arc. So now we get up to here, and this Navy we see is way worse. They are just like scummy, greedy, corrupt Navy. We see one other Navy officer, but we don't get to get a really good read on him because the fishermen kill him like immediately. So as far as the Navy we do see, I'm still not convinced the Navy as a whole is bad. I don't think they're necessarily as it seems like in general in the world the pirates are kind of outclassing the Navy, but I still think the majority of the Navy is good dudes. The reason we're seeing bad Navy in this arc is because these are the Navy guys who are the types that would be okay with dealing with Arlong. Like, we're not going to have the good Navy guys here teaming up.
And Willard mentioned this before, I think, where like the Grand Line is really where the bulk of the series takes place, but it's also where like the bulk of like the power struggle is. Yes. I think
that's where all the that's where all the resources of the Navy has to really be allocated, is the Grand Line.
Yeah, and I think the characters even say, like, if the Grand Line Navy was able to come here, like Arlong would have been gone from these villages for a while. But they, like, the threats on the Grand Line are so many and so powerful that they just cannot spare anything.
And just to have a small request, I want you to I want you to keep thinking about the Navy. And whenever we have like another kind of like Navy arc where they're introduced or they're involved in some way, just give me your thoughts and opinions about them up until we get to like right at the time skip. Because once you get to the time skip, it really solidifies what the Navy is, and it's a really interesting way to like see how like we are slowly introduced to what this is.
And keep you were saying Kobe has his view of the Navy, right? And so far what he's seen, it hasn't reinforced his view because we've only run into low-level navies that are primed for corruption. I just keep that in mind for future Navy talks too, because it is important.
In the past, I'd said, Luffy probably has a better view of pirates than most people in the world because he grew up around probably some of the most honorable of the pirates. And we don't know. Maybe Kobe had the same experience with the Navy guys. Maybe most of the Navy is assholes and he just grew up around the really good ones. I don't know that.
Kobe's just optimistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know. I'm excited to see how that develops.
Man, I'm...
Okay.
No, it's like the greatest saga in entirety of One Piece, and I just can't wait for you to get to it. And it's so far away, but it's okay. But anyways...
And then after that, the crew has a little rendezvous, and then they march into Arlong Park, and then Luffy has his grand entrance, and I feel like a lot of other the line a lot of other shonen protagonists would have done, they would have yelled like Arlong, or they'd be like, Arlong, I've come for you, but Luffy's just like, which one of these motherfuckers is Arlong? Like,
word for word.
Bradley, I cannot believe, I feel like you skipped chapters because the thing I thought we were super gonna talk about, you just glossed over.
All right, well, tell me about it.
So can I talk about Willard?
Yes, please.
Okay, so there is a moment right before. So the entire time that Luffy is on this island, he is very much just like, I'm not going to help Nami. I'm not going to resolve this situation.
Oh, yeah.
It's not my problem. He's 100% like, I'm not doing it. And Usopp and Zoro are like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah,
Like-
and she's even like been stressing to villagers like, no, I don't want or need help.
Yeah.
So they've kind of been doing this like, no, hands off.
So there's a scene right before this happened, and Luffy wakes up and he's like, all right, I'm gonna see what's up. And he goes out, and I can't remember the specifics of what happens, but essentially Nami realizes that her treasure's been stolen, and Arlong has essentially lied to her entire life.
Yes.
And she's breaking down, she's having this moment, and Luffy walks up behind her, and Nami just turns and just goes, Luffy, please help me.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he takes the hat off, puts it on, doesn't say anything, takes the hat off, puts it on her head, and just walks forward.
Well, he yells, "Damn right," or "Hell yeah," or something.
Like, let's do it. And they're like, fuck yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
That scene is legendary.
That to me like solidified so much of like who Luffy is as a captain. Like he's just like I am your captain. I'm going to help you when you want it. But if it's your problem, it's your problem. And
It's,
I'm not going to like stop you from trying to deal with your own problems if you don't want me to. And the fact that he's willing to still be there and like just kind of hold off until she finally goes like, please help me, really kind of just shows that he's so in tune. Like he understands what it means to like really, because he understands like this is Nami's problem. She wants to overcome it. She wants to be the one to solve this problem, and he can't do anything for it. I mean, he could, but he knows that that's not going to give Nami the satisfaction she needs.
Right.
It's just such a great moment in the series, and really, and it kind of solidifies that, like, just Luffy is always thinking about the other people in his life.
And to add on to that, so Nami used to like Nami to a lot of people isn't their favorite character, but I think they forget just how good and important to the crew she is, especially in this beginning, and how mature she is. And the idea that when she's broken down, she's so self-sufficient, she's so independent, she's tricked over so many pirates to the point where she was ready to start over again if she needed to. But she's crushed, she realizes her money's taken, Arlong's lied to her. The idea that this kind of person can turn to Luffy and beg for help and just know that Luffy will resolve this problem if you ask him, you just have to bring yourself to let him get involved. Mm-hmm. It just shows this relationship between the two that's just so good.
It's really hard for a writer to show character growth using only one word. Yeah. But Oda did it. She just turned to him and she said help. And you know, that was one of those panels where I just had to take a picture of it and look at it several times because I loved it.
Yeah, it's like right before a page flip, basically like you're on one page and then it's a 2-page spread of her just saying help, and that's like it almost.
And, you know, we haven't up till now we haven't really seen adult Nami in a position of weakness until this arc. Up till now, she's always, even when things are dire, she kind of has this kind of carefree, like, I can do this. Yeah. I've gotten away from worse situations before. But we're finally faced with a situation where she really needs these friends that she's made. She needs them in this moment. And, you know, to them, you know, she never separated. Like, she's like, oh, you know, they were good friends, but, you know, I have to betray them now and bring this money back. But to them, like, she was always still a part of the crew. And as soon as she needed help, they're like, yeah, we're there. We're ready to go.
And just the fact that, like, the grimness of her stabbing herself, like, endlessly, that scene is really dark. And she just hates everything who she became, that she has to be associated with Arlong. And she's taking it out on herself, and it's
like she realizes that she sacrificed like a part of herself to like for the greater good of like her village, and it just wasn't worth it in the end.
It was for nothing.
Yeah.
So even not having finished Arlong Park yet, I can probably say it's going to be a 5 out of 5.
Yeah. This was also the arc that I realized like how One Piece is structured when it comes to its like encounters, where you have this long build up. And it's all about the build-up, and then the fight at the end is just kind of the resolution of it. The fight itself it's not like Dragon Ball Z where you're going from fight to fight to fight to fight. It's really like it's coming up with a reason to why to fight this person almost.
And then the fight is an emotional release, and
Yeah.
boy, is this fight an emotional release. It's
Mhm.
really good. You still got quite a bit to go. There's a lot of combat coming up.
Oh yeah.
But the fact that all the crew members are involved, the fact that Zoro, Sanji, and even Usopp are just immediately like, "Yep, she asked for help. Let's do this," and they march over there. I gotta show you that scene in the anime. Joe doesn't like it, but like it's.
I just think the music's really off in it.
It's everyone's like one of their favorite scenes. So I'll share that with you later.
As far as for the future, and you know, obviously I don't want spoilers, but kind of I'll talk about what I would kind of want out of the conclusion of this arc and why, I guess.
You want Luffy to die, I know.
Yeah, I know. No, I would really, I think it'd be really nice if Nami were the one to deal the final blow or defeat Arlong, for two main reasons. One, just because like holy shit, she deserves to get that kill, but also because you know at one point Oda had said that the reason that the villains in One Piece don't necessarily die after their fights is because a big part of it is shattering their worldview. And I started to really see that lately. Like with Krieg, he just has this, both Krieg and Pearl just kind of have this image of themselves as this invincible, untouchable,
Warriors.
Yeah. And whenever they get hit, each of them, when they get hit for the first time, you can just see like in their face, like they just crack. They're like, holy shit, I'm not actually the shit, you know? I'm not actually invincible. And that was kind of a really good moment where it's like shattering their worldview. Buggy's a little bit harder to place, but I kind of feel like he has this attitude where he thinks because of his devil fruit powers, he's kind of invincible like that. Which, you know, he's not. He fights another devil fruit guy and he gets his ass kicked. Yeah. At least so for Arlong, a big deal with him is one, the greed, but also it's just this kind of repeated deal where he's like fishmen are just superior to humanity. Humanity, they're monkeys, they're nothing, they're idiots, they're weak. And I think we need to shatter that worldview. I think he needs to be beaten by a human, which I guess technically Luffy's a human, but I mean he's also a rubber man. I'd like Arlong to be beaten.
Here's all I can say. The resolution to this arc is, in my eyes, perfect.
Yeah. At this point, I trust Oda. I think he can deliver.
It's hard. It's almost unpredictable.
Without spoiling anything, but yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, like good. Even this early on, I think Oda's earned my trust. Where it's like I trust him to end this arc in a way that I like.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joe.
I was gonna say like right now, me and Will are on are fully caught up in the current arc, and I feel like whenever I read threads, there are people that are like, I don't know where Oda's going with this, and it's just like you've been reading this goddamn manga for 958 chapters or whatever it is,
and you don't know where he's going with it.
You don't think he knows what he's doing? Like it just blows my mind that people would think that he's slipping up. And maybe he is, but
I'd be surprised.
I don't see it. Yeah.
It's more the idea where like this current arc is so complex and has so many plot lines where people are like, how I can't imagine the future of how it's going to be tied up.
Yeah.
But it just means that when he does, it's going to be splendid. And is that good? What's your Baratie score, Bradley, for me and Joe's purposes?
Oh yeah, fuck! I need to bring up the spreadsheet.
I'm gonna call Baratie. I think at one point during it, I was feeling a 4. I'm gonna bump it down to 3.5. It would go up to a 4 if Krieg would have if we got like 2 or 3 less of the Krieg like, oh, I'm defeated, and then getting back up, I'd probably bump it up to a 4. It went on a little bit too long, but 3.5 is still good.
I think I still get a point. So
I said a 3, so we're in the middle here.
No, I said a 4. We round up.
No.
Yes, that's how we've always done it. 0.5s get rounded up.
No.
Yes, give me my point.
We'll give us each a point.
No, that's not how we've ever done it.
We'll give each other half a point.
No, Joe.
They will let the listeners see the spreadsheet so they can.
Yeah, maybe
all right.
I'll post it one day.
But I
know my fucking point.
I'm pretty sure Will and I are going to both tie in the next one. Well, this current one, which is Arlong.
Yeah, easy 5 out of 5.
I'm scared of saying these things to Bradley because I've overhyped him before.
Easy 5 out of 5. Except for Steel Ball Run, there's no way to overhype that.
Yeah. If anything, we underhyped you.
Yeah, I was shocked. I was surprised how much you liked it, Bradley. Like,
I remember, I think it was, I think it was like the Mandem arc where Joe gave me 4 out of 5. I was like, how could you possibly think I'd give that less than?
Yeah,
5?
I remember like going through. I was like, what the fuck was I? What was that high?
How could any human think that's less than 5 out of 5?
Yeah, I just was not thinking straight. But yeah,
so here's what I'm thinking.
One Piece good.
One Piece, yes. Well, what Bradley's finally over the hump. I don't have to worry anymore. Like he's gonna finish One Piece now.
Yeah, Arlong Park to me is also like the climax of the East Blue portion of the series.
Yeah, like I don't know how long the East Blue saga is,
you
but
have one more arc after this, but it's really short.
Yeah,
I'm thinking we'll talk about One Piece again when he finishes that arc. We'll get the second half of Arlong Park and that arc probably.
Yeah, I think so too. And like because it's a good like. I don't want to say quarter point, but it's a good it's like you have closed like an official section of One Piece once you get past the next arc.
Oh man,
we'll have more marine talks.
Another point for Oda that I want to give him. I think this was like last night at 2 a.m. or something, where I like his. I talked about liking his character designs, and I love that Arlong's face and body type is so unique that he doesn't even need like a fun costume like some of our other bad guys have.
Oh, yeah.
He just has normal ass clothes like shorts
chilling.
and a Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah. Okay, so what we have next, I'm not. We're gonna take a break right after I say this, but what we have next is a Game of Thrones spoiler cast. Bradley, you can jump out now if you so desire.
Yeah, I'll probably dip out because I don't think I'll be able to contribute very much. I'm sorry for people.
It's up to you.
Yeah, and we'll see how long this goes because I feel like Willer, you and I kind of have we discussed it a little bit. And we have kind of the same ideas, but
I'll summarize it for you right now. Season 8 bad.
Season 8 disappointing.
Season 8 bad.
Okay, and you're right. And I'm sitting on some worm chapters, but we'll cover them next time.
Oh, I didn't even know.
Well, it's the ones that I already read.
Oh, that's right.
But I never got to talk about them.
All right.
I must talk about one of them. No, they're both good, but one of them is.
I mean,
All right.
Okay. Well, we can do that next week, I guess.
Everyone say bye to Bradley. You got a hypothetical before you leave.
Oh my God.
No, never mind. I'll do one later. You're good.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
I'll cover.